had it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good evening. Welcome to our August 11th, have to think a minute there, what month are we in? Yes, August 11th board meeting. We did start at 6 o'clock and we are now in our open session part of our meeting. The first thing I would like is approval of our minutes from our July 14th meeting, which are
Motion
in
to
your board book.
approve.
Motion by Mark. Second by Heather. And are there any concerns or corrections that need to be made on the minutes?
No.
If not, all in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Next, I need approval of the agenda. Any changes, Dr. Brown?
There are none.
Okay, I need approval of the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I did not receive any public comments. Nope. All right, moving on to our district administrator performance evaluation system.
Yep, I'll take that.
And I will turn that over to Dr. Brown to introduce
All
that.
right. Good evening, board members, and to the public, and to Tim. We see you on with us virtual. I will tee this off by sharing with the community that upon my arrival last year, one of the asks of the board was to begin to look into a performance evaluation system, not only for myself as the district administrator, but also for central office staff. I am pleased to report that Brian is well on his way in the space with launching a evaluation system for central office staff. It is called COPES. COPE stands for Central Office Performance Evaluation System. Did I get that right, Tim? But tonight we're going to talk about, which is slightly different than DATES, which is the District Administrator Performance Evaluation System. And so we are at a point after going through year one for me. The board used the tool that you have always been using, that you have historically used to conduct my evaluation. And so in this process, I am fulfilling the ask in terms of bringing forth information from Tim, who is a representative of CISA 6 and the DATES evaluation system. You should have received a video in your email to review, to give you a high-level overview of what this system has to offer. I will share with you, I am very familiar with the system as it was used in my previous district, and it is aligned to our performance evaluation standards. And it also provides an opportunity to upload evidence and artifacts to provide to the board, to board members, as it relates to the work that we've engaged in, or that I, in my case, have engaged in an entire year. And so what I thought we would do today is have Tim, thank you for joining us today. I will turn it over to you and maybe provide additional information other than what I provided and what the board members have been able to review in the video. But primarily what we wanted to do today is provide an opportunity for our board members to be able to ask you any questions they might have as it relates to the process. And I suspected that they will compare what they hear from you today to what they have used, what the board has used historically, to see what that could bring for us here in Waunakee Community School District. So I will turn it over to you and let you take it away.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, folks, for having me this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to answer any questions, certainly, that you may have as it relates to the district administrator performance evaluation system. And I really do appreciate that Dr. Kelsey Brown highlighted the fact that you are onboarding or in the process of onboarding that COPES element, that central office tool, as a performance evaluation tool for the upcoming school year. And so I just think it's important for me to make sure that I kind of get us grounded prior to any questions. And I just want to ground us in the understanding of when we're talking about a district administrator performance evaluation system in particular, it's really important that we have a very clear, unified, concise process in place, because we're bringing together a variety of people from a variety of backgrounds when it comes to evaluation. Some people have seen either no evaluation system in their careers, and some have seen very robust evaluation systems. So to give us a tool that we can all center ourselves around collectively in order to give that district administrator the feedback that they deserve. That's really the basis and really what is the driving force for me when I come to work with boards, especially, is just helping to realize, our district administrators oftentimes are on an island by themselves trying to juggle 152 plates all by themselves. And, the board's responsibility is to help to give that feedback, to help that person continue to grow and become the professional that they need to be, to make sure the kids in your district are doing great things, and certainly your staff are doing great things as well. So those are just some of the pieces that I make sure that always kind of front load with folks. I want to make sure that I have the space and the time for you to ask me any questions that you may have about our particular evaluation system, and I will do my absolute best to answer all of those questions for you this evening.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so we'll turn it over to board members. Any questions? Anyone wants to take it away?
So Tim, can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
How personalized is your model for a particular district? I was looking at the criteria. There's like 4 different criteria for a performance, and do we write those performance measures? Is that something that is standard in this tool? How does that work?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the DAPES evaluation system is modeled after our teacher performance evaluation system, our school administrator performance evaluation system, the central office tool that you also see, and what we, especially for districts that are adopting multiple performance evaluation systems, we like to keep consistency as it relates to the number of proficiency levels that you would see within a rubric. So those rubrics that you would see for each of the 6 standards would come with our recommended language as it relates to the performance levels that you ultimately would give a summative grading on. And then those 6 standards that you saw in some of your materials, or we would possibly see more in depth in the future, those standards and indicators have a really good alignment with those evaluation systems for the positions that come underneath that as well. So again, when we always talk with boards about making sure that our arrows are pointing in the same direction when we're talking about the work that we're doing. That's really the goal of this tool, is to create some of that universal language. So your district administrator is experiencing a very similar sort of feedback to what the remainder of your team potentially would get as well.
So then if we have particular goals or priorities that we want to also measure, that would be personalized? Can that be part of the tool or a separate evaluation?
When you're asking around those goals that you'd want to measure, would those be performance measures of the superintendent, or would those be performance measures of the district itself?
Well, of the district, but we do want to, we would want to measure those on a yearly basis.
Gotcha. So typically with the DAPES performance evaluation system, we are looking exclusively at that administrator and the goals that she sets. And those goals are going to be driven by a self-assessment process that starts the year off, generally in July, where she is able to take a look at each of the 6 standards, do some reflecting around where am I strong right now, where do I feel really, really good about my practices, and where are there opportunities for me to continue to grow and that I want to invest in. And then that's going to really drive the goal setting process, which is on an annual basis. We recommend 2 to 3 personal goals for that district administrator, because again, she could set 1 million goals in a year, but really we want to get laser focused on a couple particular goals that now you as a board can be very conscious of throughout the course of the year. Where are we seeing instances of this being demonstrated? Where can we give good verbal feedback? But then also, where can we give that summative feedback in the written form at the end of that cycle? So ultimately, she's able to determine, hey, have I grown in this? Have I become a better professional as a result of the work I've done, but also the feedback I've gotten? What I feel like I'm hearing really resonates a little bit more as like a district KPI, a key performance indicator that maybe you're setting on some type of a scorecard, as opposed to, hey, this is solely the responsibility of the superintendent. We really want to try to keep that personalized to her.
Okay. Thank you. Mark?
So Tim, in the past, we didn't get a lot of data to do our analysis. I mean, we had the anecdotals and our visual observations of how our superintendents have performed. We would get a personal summary of what the superintendent thought were areas of success and areas needing more growth. When I look at your multiple data source that was in the slide, do we get some sort of a printout to help us looking to apply the rubrics to the six standards?
Yes. We have it's referred to as a documentation log, or you can think of it as a portfolio, where Dr. Kelsey Brown, as she would go through her year, and she is doing that specific focused work on the goals that she has set, there's an opportunity for her to upload artifacts that relate to, maybe it's part of her first progress check with the board, and there's a particular presentation that she's prepared to be able to give you that high-level overview of, here's my progress in this particular area. That could serve as an artifact. There may be items that are presented during the course of board meetings that could be pulled in as artifacts. But again, all of that would be there for you in Frontline as a tool. So each board member would have access to Frontline. That's an online management tool that the district has. That's what hopes will be run through in the upcoming year. It may be where your teachers had their evaluations in the past. And so that's something that you would have access to, and you'd be able to digitally see those different files. Whether they be PDFs, sometimes there'll be links to Google Docs, or whatever that preferred format would be for the ease of sharing with you as the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
One of the pieces of information I shared with Joan, Tim, was just around the alignment of your tools, right, generally speaking, across the board. One of the things, so I'm interested and excited to see how it lands for central office this year, and thinking about what that could look like for other personnel in the district moving forward. I will share with you, my first year as a superintendent was COVID. And I tried to launch your entire platform in my entire district. That's not a way to go, right? So lesson learned for me. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. But the point I'm trying to make is thinking about the process from the standpoint of a smaller team. So again, starting with central office, but also I have experience in that space, and I can say that I do appreciate the feedback when used appropriately and when used for the right reason, right? Performance evaluations I did appreciate the feedback that I was able to glean from the board, but also the opportunity for you all to continue to be able to engage in my evidence, my artifacts, the work that I'm uploading to the platform at your leisure, at any time that you want to be able to do that, so that you can say, hey, Monica, it's December and I'm not seeing whatever it might be. That's an opportunity to revisit the conversation, but for me to reflect and maybe go back to the team and understand why are we in this space where we're not able to provide an update. And if we're not able to, you should also have that information as well. So I really liked it. I like the rubric, the scoring at the end, a coach. I'm not sure if you're still working in that space, Tim, where a coach from CISA actually comes in and works with the board to come to a consensus around what those, coming to a consensus on the rubric for each standard. So I don't know, is that still part of your process?
So as a part of the summative evaluation piece,
Correct.
we do offer a service to boards where we serve as kind of that conduit of we're going to gather all that feedback from the board as you take a look at those artifacts, as you take a look at the goal setting, and as you just think about, again, the year from a holistic perspective. I would be that individual. I gather that feedback and then synthesize that to be able to come to the board. And honestly, it would just be an opportunity for us to sit down around what feedback has been gathered holistically, and can we arrive at a consensus that this is really the voice of the feedback we want to provide to that administrator. And that can, in some cases, I've been places where that takes 5 minutes to arrive at consensus. In some places, that can take a little bit longer. At the end of the day, everybody cares about the people that they're working with, and so there is a cost associated with me doing that summative evaluation component, and that's just a charge of, it's $1,045 plus my mileage to come from Neenah down to Waunakee. And what I usually recommend to people is, if you're going to have me come in to go through that process, it's really to help inform a consistency of that process in the future. So it's not something that I want you to be dependent on me for years and years down the road. If you're going to have me come in, let's really make sure that we feel comfortable and confident with it, so we can have that agency around that process as we go into the subsequent years.
So, Tim, that sounds interesting to me, because when I look at assessing by rubrics, unless we have a common vision of what the rubric means, there's really no fidelity. To me, you could be all, my 5 could be someone's 3, just because of how we view the thing, and so I could see how that would be very helpful. Long term, it would seem if there's a shift in the board, if we continue using this, we might need a brush up on that, but I think for the first year, that sounds intriguing, that we might want to consider that.
And I will offer as as supports for users of the system, we provide realistic, I don't want to say core, I would say biannual. We're going to provide a message at the start of your school year, which is really for the board and for the superintendent, really thinking about July and making sure, checking in to make sure there's no questions, but also offering these resources to you, which would just be overviews of the goal setting process, overviews of your timelines that you should be really considerate of as you're preparing for your board, your closed session board opportunities when you engage in those progress checks and ultimately the summative. And then as you get to that May portion of the year, I would be sending out again a follow-up that would just have preparing for your summative event with your district administrator, which is just an asynchronous course that we put together with just some nice reminders, to your point, for as you onboard new board members, those can be invaluable and just kind of getting them up to speed. And then, certainly the GDC at CISA 6, the Growth and Development Team, our job is to make sure we take care of you. So, you know, if you get in a spot where you feel like, you know what, we need more than just a video refresher, it's one call to me, and, you know, I can come down and make sure we take care of you.
Tim, in the timeline, the summative is identified as kind of a May-June event. How do you incorporate school boards that, like this year, first week in April, we have 3 new members? And should the evaluation happen prior to that, to an election, so that you get, you know, how does that work in your brain?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not going to pretend to have a perfect answer on that. In my eyes, when I think of an evaluation cycle, I'm thinking about this more from the perspective of what Dr. Kelsey Brown, what is it that she wishes to accomplish over the course of this school year. And to me, the integrity of her being able to go through that self-evaluation, goal setting, feedback through the progress check process, and arriving at that summative experience, once she has, because let's be honest, a lot of work happens in May and June.
Yeah.
So I would hate to ever give the guidance of, you know, let's stop something in April.
Right.
In order to, in case that would jeopardize the growth opportunity for the superintendent. With that said, you know, one of the big pieces I always recommend to boards is, you know, don't forget that evaluation is it's a year-round process. And, you know, we should be engaging in those healthy conversations with each other around, here are noticings and wonderings. You know, it doesn't have to happen just at progress checks. It doesn't have to always be formal. It can be informal in nature. But that's just something to be conscious of and aware of. Ultimately, that would be a local decision where you as a board, and I would expect Dr. Kelsey Brown to be a part of that discussion, you know, just to make sure that you would have alignment in what those expectations, and because that's certainly going to impact her work as she goes through the year as well.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
All right, well, Tim, I don't think there are any other questions. We want to thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you.
I think you all continue to have the conversation, and I'll reach back to you with the final decision from the board once they're able to talk about it a little bit more, okay?
That sounds great. If there's any questions whatsoever, clarity needed, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be happy to help in any way possible.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
Yep, you guys as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to reports. I think our teachers and students will be back next month, but for this month, if there are any board members that have attended any meetings or trainings or involvement that they'd like to share? Yes.
I took a meeting with Representative Pocan's field office director,
Okay.
Chandler Denhart. He came over and spoke to me, and I got all this information and said if we ever needed anything, we should contact him. So.
Good. Good connections, always important. Thank you, Heather. Anybody else? Chris? So the next item on the agenda is really to talk about Dr. Brown's evaluation, and what we would like, you know, and I have kind of talked to her about this, is to do an evaluation now, and not the new model, but some of you have not even seen the old model. So I think it would be good to go through the process with the model that we have been using. it'll give everybody kind of a comparison. And then I would like to have a discussion of, you know, a possible new model, but I think it's prudent to evaluate you now at the end of 1 year of employment here, for your sake, for our sake. And so the model that we have used is kind of similar in format to what was described here. There are different criteria. There are performance items and criteria like 1 through 4, I believe, or I think 1 through 4. Rebecca will send it to everybody, and if you could have it completed, it would be nice to have it done so we could see results before our September meeting. And maybe use some time at that point to talk about things. So what date Rebecca, do you have a date that would be helpful so that, I don't really want the results in board book public. We could talk about how to put them in, but I want it timely enough so that it can be put together.
Today's the 11th. I would love to say by the annual meeting, but I would be willing to go to the end of that week.
You know, could we set the annual meeting as time the 25th? 2 week? Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what, I'll send it out to all of you tomorrow morning, and if any of you, especially Chris and Carly and Heather, if you look at it and say, oh, you know, I need more
And you know,
that time, let me know.
feel free to call somebody on the board if you're struggling with it, would like a little more guidance, Mark.
So the question I have, and I apologize if my brain isn't working well on this one, but before we've done this in the past, Randy would have about 45 minutes to overview the year with us. And I don't recall having that yet. And so are you just asking us to go off of our instinct off this, or would it be more fair to have that?
We're not doing any of the goals. We're just doing the particular performance model. They're separate. They're two separate. So we're not doing any of the goals. I think that's what Randy would normally
Okay.
kind of identify. These are really leadership traits
Right.
and qualities.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you're just kind of going
Okay.
off what you see.
Good enough.
And if it
Okay.
would be helpful, Dr. Brown did have a presentation, was that in June or July, that she just kind of wrapped up
Yeah.
her year?
Yeah.
I could send that again.
That'd be helpful. to
That
have.
would be helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
You mean the end of year?
Wrap up kind of.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be great. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you can pull it right off of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anybody else? Okay, so feedback for Dr. Brown, 2 weeks.
Yay.
So what do you see as a timeline for making this decision on the dates? Are we committed to it? Or do we need to make a decision on that? In fairness to Dr. Brown, if we need to, then we should get that done sooner rather than later too.
I would like to put that on the September meeting
Okay,
and have a discussion at that time. But I think it's important for our new board members to see the tool we have been using.
sure.
And have a comparison. And we'll do that in September.
Okay. Good.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to committee reports, we have only one committee, and that was policy, and we have one policy, so.
You
turn it
feel
over to
really
Tab.
important now, huh? Only committee. Wow, spotlight's on. So as you know, Dr. Brown has kind of put together a schedule more, more scheduled meetings when they're happening. But within this schedule, as is the case with this one, when things are popped up, we'll just kind of bring them in. So, this particular policy is regarding therapy dogs and the request to have a policy on that. So, I don't know if you all, if Steve, you wanted to talk about it, or Dr.
Sure.
Brown, or if you wanted Tiffany to come up.
I can tee it up, and then Lisa and Tiffany, if you want to come on up, that'd be great. So upon my arrival last year, when I came, I had an initial conversation with Lisa about therapy dogs. Talked to Brian a little bit about it as well, and I know there was some work that transpired prior to my arrival, discussions in that space. And so here we are today. Tiffany and Lisa have done inordinate amount of work, coupled with what Brian has done to bring information to the table. So thank you to the trio for pulling this all together. We think it's important, certainly from the standpoint of what we're seeing as it relates to mental health, social and emotional supports for students in our buildings, and have seen how behaviors can change. We have real-time evidence of how behaviors can change when students have access to therapy dogs. So to quote Lisa, we've had dogs in the buildings, and we find it, time to get grounded in policy in terms of understanding what that looks like for us in our school district. I'll turn it over to, I don't want to steal Lisa or Tiffany's thunder at all. I will say that I was pleased to hear that when we interviewed Emily, our new principal at Heritage, she already had a therapy dog in her previous district. So we do have a resident expert, if you will.
Who is joining us via still photos
So
in
here's
his
some-
action. So Emily shared a couple of action photos of Riggins. This is her actual therapy dog who she had in her previous district. We got a little bit more information about the timing and how often he was there, and sort of how they built out a schedule eventually. But he was very popular, and she can attest to being just a very absorbent of students' feelings, and that would really tire him out. So she eventually built up to having him Monday, Tuesdays, then he really needed a day off on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Fridays. We would not start with that schedule. That would be potentially a build-up towards the end of the year. But if we go through all of these steps, we would love to be able to sort of pilot it on a somewhat consistent basis, potentially even starting with 1 day a week. Something to look forward to, just to intro and get him accustomed to the space, and work through a lot of the areas in our policy, including communication, allergy awareness, and just sort of all the things that we know we need to be proactive about. The version that's attached to the board book does include a couple of updates that we had talked about during the policy meeting. So we have those in red there. And then we had also discussed not necessarily putting policy language to it, but ensuring that we have the approval process start at the district level. So in other words, we don't want people, requesting to bring in dogs at every building. We want to start with just the one in the moment, work through what that process would look like, and then also make sure that we have established a checklist so that all of the responsibilities in our policy are part of that approval process. And rather than make that an artifact, we want to make sure that that makes sense and something, we don't learn something along the way. So we're starting small. I think there will be a lot of attention and energy around it, but we do want to keep it narrow in scope so that it's manageable, and that we're truly focusing on the therapeutic aspect. This is not, we talked about this in the committee meeting, this is not like emotional support animals, this is not wide open, this is very specific to trained, certified therapy dogs and their handlers. What did I miss?
I don't think anything, because that was the last thing that you said. It was exactly what I was going to say too, that this isn't an avenue to open up students to start requesting, can they bring in their emotional support animals? It's really just a district. We just wanted to make sure we had a policy around, especially around the communication piece. I think the more we talked with the admin team, that came out as the most important piece, and just making sure parents were aware, teachers were aware, that everyone's aware, so that we can be aware of allergies and those other things too, so.
Do you have any?
Or one other thing, if we're gonna contract to, I would like to, like in our alternative program, and I know at like at the high school during finals week, we bring in dogs from an outside agency, and their handlers bring them and stay with them. So we would have that would be part of our process too, if a building administrator wanted to request, yes, we're gonna have therapy dogs, you know, during finals week at high school, they would make that request, and that would come through the district level as well.
Questions?
In terms of notification, I think during the committee meeting, Joan, you brought up, like, you mentioned it here in terms of identification of the classroom or school that they'll be brought into, and I think we were concerned potentially of how widespread that communication went, because to make sure the whole school, if they're gonna be in any way contact with them, that they're aware of it, as opposed to just one classroom. Is that still, do we look at that being the case? Meaning how is that gonna happen?
Yeah, and we, in our conversations with Emily, just about her previous experience, you know, we said it was the dog. Obviously, it's not like free roaming all over the building, it's really like primarily in the office or comes to, she said, especially when there was like a medical event, if a student got hurt, like they would often request the dog, and so she would bring the dog to them in those situations. But it's not like it's in and out of every classroom. And we would also do due diligence in terms of our nursing staff, looking at, you know, which kids in our building have allergies, and again, some are mild allergies, and some, you know, oftentimes pet allergies aren't like peanut allergies, right, where they're much more significant and high risk. But we would obviously communicate with parents and have any parents that reached out to us, make sure we follow up with them too.
So, specifically, you would contact all parents in that school when the dog is going to be in the building?
In advance.
In
It would be
Perfect.
kind of like an intro, this is.
Perfect.
This is who he is, this
Yes.
is the role of a therapy dog, kind of some of the language around what the requirements are, that it's
Right.
not
Perfect.
someone's pet. So very clear communication, and then an opportunity. Although we ask for allergies and updates during the registration process, we would have a specific sort of reminder and outreach to, you know, give families another opportunity
Perfect.
to share that with us. And then just be really mindful about an introduction to any common areas or anything like that. We would be very, you know, conservative with keeping the dog in a space until we were, you know, like well informed of the needs of the school.
So I know at our meeting, we brought up the, you know, the needs of a principal and,
Yep.
you know, and I know that you've put in here that she is definitely the handler, or trained designee. So she'll take care of that. Is the dog ever in a crate, or is that, no?
No, she said that, that he had a little bed in like the corner of her office, and if she needed to leave, you know, she would shut the door and he would
He
stay
just
there.
stayed,
Mhm.
just,
And
he's
if,
comfortable.
you know, he could sense energy or, you know, anxious, that her office mate, who I think was a counselor, could also pull
Okay,
into her
So
office or
she'll-
something like that. And I would, you know, anticipate some level of teamwork like that.
okay.
All good questions and exciting learning opportunities.
Yeah, it is, it's, you know, dogs are great little companions and they can really lower a kid's anxiety, so it's all
Also,
good.
it brought up the fact that it seemed like this would be this is some kind of new business sort of thing where it's maybe there's some costs associated with sort of this, having this brought into the district, and then they assured us that it's really not, that it's more of a voluntary process, they just come and so it's really, talk about the insurance and the cost, so it doesn't seem to be any kind of cost associated with it, so.
Yeah, I was surprised, so I learned during the process that all of the people that come in with the dogs are volunteers, so there's really no charge to the district. I was kind of surprised by that, but, yeah, and then even, I know when Steve checked on the insurance pieces with our insurance company, they just talked about how common it is now for schools to have therapy dogs, so.
It's good. Thank you for all your research and background. And anybody have any questions? If not, I would take a motion to approve this policy.
Motion to approve therapy dog policy?
Seconded.
Any last comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on to administrative report. So there are some action items that we need to do on a yearly basis, and I'll just kind of go through these one by one. The first one is, as a district, we have to first authorize using an independent hearing officer for any expulsion. So the first item is just to authorize us to do expulsions in that fashion, and then we'll get to the actual person that we will use for that. So,
And this does need to be a roll call.
oh, thank you for remembering that. Let me get my roll call sheet up. So I need a motion to authorize us to use an expulsion officer.
Motion to approve a hearing officer for expulsions.
Second?
Second, and I need to do that by roll call. Carly?
Aye.
Myself, yes. Ted?
Aye.
Dawn's not here. Mark?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
And Chris?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we need to approve a recommendation by our administration to continue using John Anderson of Hughes Blackwell Law Firm, who has been, I think, probably 4 or 5 years. He has been our expulsion officer, and I think the district has been happy with his services. So I would take a motion to continue with that recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Heather, and we don't have to do this one by roll call. So any questions on using John Anderson? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Next, we need to have a medical advisor to our district. And Lisa has reached out to Dr. Ranum, and Dr. Ranum has done this for as long as I've been sitting here, and probably a long time before that. He is at our clinic. He is our SSM provider at our clinic in Waunakee here. And he has graciously done this for many, many years. And if he can't make a athletic event, they usually send one of the doctors from the clinic, but he oversees all of that. So I would look for a recommendation of continuing with Dr. Ranum.
Motion to approve Dr. Random.
Second.
Any comments on that? All in favor of approving Dr. Ranum, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Perfect, thank you. Moving on, we have an alternative site paraprofessional wages, and Tiffany would like to have some variation in the wage that the paras will be paid at our alternative site. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and we're talking about two individuals for now. We're starting with a teacher and 2 paraprofessionals, so not a large number. But the position is just a little bit different in terms of a few requirements. first of all, they're working with our most challenging students, and typically in a building, when a paraprofessional is assigned to a student, they might be assigned to a challenging student for an hour or 60 to 90 minutes, and then the rest of their day is with other students that maybe don't have as significant of needs. Also in this site, because there wouldn't be a health assistant, our paraprofessionals and teachers will be trained in how to do medication administration. If a student needs medication administered, the nurses, of course, would lead the training. They also will have a different structure to their day, because they'll actually, like for their lunch, it will be a working lunch, so we will be eating lunch with kids, because they won't necessarily have that separate time in their day, but they will have some time at the beginning of the day and the end of the day for breaks, so it's not like they're not getting a break, and they certainly can eat. It would be just happen to be with kids present. And then they're also, both of our paraprofessionals be required to be drivers for the district, so that they can, we're gonna have some kids that are still gonna be going to Phi-Ed classes at the intermediate school, and we'd like to be able to do some small field trips and things as well. So all three, the teacher and both paraprofessionals, are gonna be drivers for the district as well. So those are some requirements that aren't really part of every paraprofessional position, which is why we thought adding a differential for that program would be important. And it's a challenging job, and I think recognizing that and adding some financial incentive would be good. I still don't think we're gonna get, we have one person that's very interested right now that are, we're of course pulling from our current, starting at the intermediate school, because they're most familiar with the students that will be in the alternative setting, and starting there. So we have one person interested, and we're still looking for a second one, so.
Any questions for Tiffany? And she sent you the specifics on what the differential that she's requesting is. If not, I would take a motion to approve that pay difference.
I make a motion to approve the pay difference. Second.
Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you, Tiffany. And you have another request. Wow,
Yes,
21 students.
Yeah, and I would say this is the start of my 5th year in Waunakee, and this is probably the most challenging part of my job, is trying to plan for when we get an influx of new students. I remember the very first year I was here, we had 42 new students enrolled over the summer, just students with special education needs. And then it's fluctuated the last few years between 20 and 30, so still a very large number of students, and it's difficult to plan for that. So out of the 21 students, resident students, because we're not allowed to claim transfer of service for students that are open enrolled, so that's a separate area of cost. So when we have, for example, 7 students in this group that require one-to-one support throughout their day. So, and some are coming from out of state, some are coming from districts in Dane County, it's a variety. But it's hard to plan for that each year, and especially when we're still getting registrations right now, obviously, and probably all the way up until school starts, so that's why it looks like a huge influx, but I also 10 of the students that came in have speech and language needs. So that's 10 additional students on a caseload for a speech and language pathologist. And then the paraprofessionals are really strictly for those one-on-one students that are coming in. And then the teacher in just one of our buildings at Prairie, we're kind of getting pushed to the limit. Now we have 2 more students coming into Prairie as of last week with IEPs as well, so.
Is the speech and language person, will that person have to move buildings or?
We will probably sit down as a team and just kind of revamp. We have a caseload plan for this coming year, but we will probably sit down and revamp that, because we have multiple people that are over 40 students on their caseload. So once they get over 40, it becomes pretty unmanageable. So we'll probably just reallocate and we'll have to sit down as a team and just figure out how the numbers would best work out at which buildings, so. Just to bring those numbers down a little bit.
All right, they're here, so I guess we will take care of them.
Not like it's foreseen that it would go the other way, but if they were no longer here and we don't have the need for these positions, how does that work?
That's kind of unique. Steve
Yeah,
always likes to chime in on that one, at least when we're presenting together, because Once you get the additional revenue, even if a student leaves, that money never goes away. So it's an increase in your revenue cap, and then it stays. It doesn't go, even if theoretically, if 5 or 6 or 10 or all 21 left, that level of funding doesn't change. So it's.
But does that funding have to be used for special ed?
We have to tag, for transfer of service, we have to tag it to specific positions. So we can use it for special education or for English language learner students as well, English learners. So we can use transfer of service for either one.
Good question.
But
Okay.
I guess one Ted, if your question is related to the staff members themselves, the certified individuals are contracted, so then they're gonna have statutory protection to be renewed. And we'd have to go through a process of non-renewal to have someone's contracted not return. The para-educators are hourly employees who are at will, they don't have that same protection, so then we would have it would be a more straightforward process to have them leave our employment.
And I think what we've found is that even when we have a student with one-on-one needs that leaves the district, we have another one come right in behind it, so there's not, generally, we're not ever laying people off or reducing staff because we have more students coming in.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. So I would take a motion to approve the needed positions for our new students.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Did you get somebody? Any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. All right, next on our agenda is an update on the Director of Facilities. So, Don.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
As Rebecca gets this prepared to go. Just wanted to give you guys an overview of the department and where I came from, and I know you guys have been stepping through this. Last month we had Dustin Lieback, and Rick Franz owes me one for this one, so I stepped in this month, and I'm happy to go and show you what I put together. So today we'll go down the list a little bit about me and and the role I play in facilities, our department staff, new construction items, district energy efficiency items that I'm working on and have worked on, continuous improvement, and then the final slide. We'll have my information for contact. So I've been here 6 years now, and just a little background about myself. I have a degree in technical management. I've been facilities director for 11 years, and I did parallel IT director for 20 years, so I started that in around 1999. With an emphasis in business continuity and disaster recovery. So that's where the safety world came from, my IT years. And going way back, I worked in Dallas, Texas for 12 years. I'm a techie nerd, so I have a ton of certifications, and one of the things I really get into is green energy and clean power, so kind of stuff like that. So that's a little bit about me and my personal world. I have 2 kids that graduated from Waunakee, and actually they just graduated college this year as well, so excited about that. I started our Warrior mountain bike team a couple of years ago, and have had multiple roles leading that organization, and I'm also a Try for Schools volunteer. So a little bit about the department. You know, our roles are to ensure we have a safe operating environment for our school buildings, for our staff and kids in schools. I have 44 employees under me currently, and 15 report to me directly. 7 school buildings and the district office, and that equates to over 1 million square feet under my management. We have 5 sports buildings and 13 high-class sports fields, which encompasses over 120 acres of grounds. So one of the main components that I work on is to guide building infrastructure, operations, and maintenance, and make sure we have a clean and safe building, or clean and safe environment for learning for our kids. And of course, leading new construction and retrofit construction logistics throughout the district. And the photos on the bottom are Prairie, Arboretum, the New Heritage, intermediate, middle, and high school. Any questions so far? My favorite slide, community. This is a maintenance team, and our crew here in maintenance. So Scott Bauer is pivotal to our project coordination components that we run in the district. So the board's approved multiple millions of dollars of projects over the past few years, and Scott's been pivotal to helping schedule, coordinate, and run those projects with me. Mike Darvin's our electrician, licensed electrician. Scott on grounds. John's our licensed plumber. Ryan's our newest person. He's adept at many things, mechanical items, low voltage. He's helped me out with quite a bit. And Doug is a master of things in our shop. And then we have our grounds expert, Ben. And Nicole, of course, actually runs the department. Just kidding. So the next slide, I think it's gonna work. There we go. Here are 6 head custodians. Lori's our brand new head custodian at Heritage, and Kevin's our brand new head custodian at our middle school. So we actually toured both middle schools today. He was very excited about getting going, and Lori's very excited as well. So good group of people. And here's just some fun stuff we've been working on. Of course, new construction at Heritage. Some board members may remember this day at Heritage. This is a shot on the catwalk bridge at the new middle school with some of my team members. And then outside, I took a great photo today, a picture of the main switchgear at the middle school. It's not energized yet, but all the giant cables are hanging out of it. I didn't get a chance to get that in, but it's really cool stuff happening in the middle school. Some components I've worked on with these projects: EV charging, security technology, the fencing and property, change orders, and really digging into what it takes to get these buildings going. Site and field components, outbuildings, energy efficiency, etc. So lots of good stuff. So speaking of energy efficiencies, this is one of the items I really gravitate toward as well. This is just facts for you guys. At Heritage, we have a 387 kilowatts solar voltaic system on the roof, and the intermediate school now has a 276 kilowatt system, so generating a lot of power there from those buildings. And we're now working with Data Wrangler. They've actually helped us save over $35,000 from the same time period over the last 8 months. And this graph just shows us how we analyze that data monthly with the folks from Clockworks and Data Wrangler. So this graph is a little hard to read, but the solar is in green. So you'll see on the weekend here, this is Heritage, that when we're not in school, we're really using very little power on the blue line, but the solar is still generating a lot of power. And that helps us during the day then when we do use electricity with the blue, but the solar is offsetting most of our use here during the day. It's a sunny day. So it's been really great. And I can get into any details after the meeting.
Do either of those buildings have battery, like energy storage systems?
We do not have storage.
No? Okay.
It's used directly or put back onto the grid if it's in excess of what you're using. So our other partners I wanted to list here too, Westfall and Upper 90, they've been pivotal to helping us with our data, or energy efficiencies and data, helping shore up our envelope and other energy saving initiatives. The Dent electrical meter alerting, that's actually part of the data wrangler, but the electrical meter alerting allows us to understand when we lose power in our buildings, when our generator is on, when the village has lost power and so forth. So it helps us, instead of having knee-jerk reactions, we're now notified as these events occur in our buildings. So then we can react accordingly, whether that's calling our utility, making sure our electrician is aware, calling administration, helping them understand the power in your building, we might have to switch gears for the day or what have you. So it's been really helpful. And then the last bullet here, emergency backup power generators. We now have an emergency backup generator here at Bethel. We do have a data center, a data closet here at Bethel that's critical to our operation. So we have a generator here if we lose power, and we have generators now in all of our buildings except for the current middle school. Just a fact for you. Any questions on any of this information? So I put some goals for our continued district improvement on here. We'll just read through them. Of course, the new middle school opening next year in '26. High school and existing middle school campus integration. I know we're working on that now as a board. Capital, maintenance, and asset inventory modernization. This is something I'm passionate about. We really need some effort there, so I want to work on that with my team. Of course, ongoing skills advancement in high-tech building and operations and services, so that's ongoing, especially with our 3 buildings that would be under 10 years old, the intermediate school is now 11 years old. Robotic technology for grounds and in building. We're going to be getting our 3rd robot by the end of the month in our district. So we have a robot painter, we have a robot vac at Heritage, and now have a robot scrubber at the high school. It's really exciting to save our crew time so they can do other important things. Of course, lowering operating costs through green energy initiatives, Steve likes that one. And safe and functional appealing learning spaces. And of course, our top-notch athletic spaces and beautiful grounds. These are things that are important to me. I'd love to hear from you guys if you have anything you want to chime in on or add after. That'd be great. Questions? Comments? Otherwise, I think the questions slide is next.
Questions for John? So, you have a lot of things on your plate. I am happy that Dr. Brown hired Dustin to help with the safety component, because you really have a lot of things going on, John. Are there things that you want to make us aware of that we might consider in your position?
Sure. It's been great to work with Dustin. It's great that he's here and on board. We have a lot of information sharing that we continue to do now between myself and Rick Franz and Dustin. We have a lot of systems and components that we work on. It's great that he's offset some of that safety side for us. It would be great if you could even take it, because we have a lot going on. So he's been great so far, for sure. Great addition. I think the next component will be Dr. Brown and I will have to talk about how we're going to man the middle school, so that's out there yet. Really, otherwise, I think everything's going great.
Good.
The new middle school is a lot bigger footprint, so we'll have to talk about to care for and maintain that building. Robots. And more robots.
So the high school robot is coming soon?
We're solidifying the date. It's either gonna be this Friday or in September, so I'm really pushing to get it in this Friday.
That's exciting.
It's here, we just need to have time to deploy it.
Yeah. Exciting. Nice job, John. I appreciate all that you do. Anybody have any questions for John and his team? All right.
So Chris, she said no, which surprised me. Thanks.
Were you gonna say something, Chris? I see you unmuted.
Well, I was just impressed with your BC and DR background, John. I didn't catch that earlier, so that's cool to see some great assets and resources there.
Yeah, thank you. BCDR is cool stuff.
Indeed.
Thank you, John. And that brings us to announcements and correspondence. So there are some upcoming WASB opportunities for everyone. There are fall regional meetings. I believe we're Region 12, and the Sun Prairie date is, did I read the 23rd? My screen's not opening.
I thought it was the 30th, but I don't recall, to be honest with you.
No, it's not the 23rd, it is the it is the
30th.
next week. For some reason,
Yep, September 30th in Sun Prairie.
Yeah,
Thank you.
30th.
my thing didn't open. September 30th. So at a regional meeting, they usually have a speaker, they present awards for anybody who there's, I don't know how many levels, 4 or 5 different levels of award winners.
And we were just told this, or we just saw in the mail today that Joan and Dawn will be receiving awards this time.
Oh, well.
Right. If you do this long enough, they give you something. So anyway, please consider it, look at your calendars. Again, it's just nice to kind of, the camaraderie of getting together with other board members and other districts is always good. So please consider the 30th for sure. Those other upcoming dates, was that also on the regional meeting? For some reason, my computer.
It's a separate attachment. It just kind of, it talks about the fall regional meetings, it's talking about some Title IX training, business honor roll. It's just a conglomeration of many different things.
Thank you. Which brings us to any questions on any of those WASB meetings? Moving on to the consent agenda.
Just 2 items. Joan, just a reminder that LearnFest is taking place this week, so if you have an opportunity to stop
Yes.
by, if you would send the agenda to the board for LearnFest.
Oh,
We
yes.
start tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't realize that it was this week.
Yes, this week. I'm starting tomorrow. And then just a reminder, the first day of school is September 2nd. Here we go.
Before our next meeting.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Exciting. And everybody has received the schedule for the,
We should say LearnFest and Welcome Back Week
the
to
welcome
everybody.
back week.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, so we are now on consent agenda. The notice of the annual meeting is in there. Our cash flow borrowing is in there. If anybody has any questions on that, if that's a new topic. Maybe Steve, you want to say a few things about the cash flow borrowing?
Sure, thank you, Joan. So every year we do borrow in the fall. We moved it up earlier in the process, which is why we did request consideration of the annual meeting in August. The annual meeting in August then allows us to come to the September board meeting and request to borrow the funds. It's a much better time frame for us than waiting until October. So it's a pretty standard process. We do partner with other districts to try to keep the cost down. Typically, there's 4 to 6 other schools that participate in the borrowing. But the purpose of having this in the consent agenda is just to really get that process started, and the actual resolution will be brought to the board during the September meeting.
Thank you. So, if there are any questions in the consent agenda, you may ask now. If not, I would take a motion to approve all of it, or you can pull something out for greater consideration.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Any questions on anything? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. All right, brings us down to board business, which you just kind of mentioned, the Learn Fest and our Welcome Back Week. We have a few meetings. I think all of these have been already motioned in. We have our board workshop next week on Monday, starting at 5:30, and we will be doing that at the current middle school library. Some food will be provided. Please bring your own beverage. We have the annual meeting the following Monday, so every Monday we get to be together. And again, that's already been motioned in, 7 o'clock here. And then we have budget, which Rebecca has put together for us on September 4th at 7:30. Facilities, September 4th at 8:30. And then we have our regular meeting on the 8th. So that's our update on our meeting schedule. And that brings us to the end. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right, have a good evening.
Have a good night, Chris.
And thank you all for attending.
Good night, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.